Tonight on World Affairs Today, we bring you the most significant developments happening around the world on January 27th, 2026, from geopolitics and security to major trade breakthroughs and human rights concerns. Key stories we'll cover include escalating conflict zones and protests, a landmark India-EU trade agreement, domestic pressure and global reactions to Trump's statements, human rights crises in Iran, tension in Ukraine, and Russian strikes. Let's get started. One of the biggest news stories today is a historic trade breakthrough. After nearly 20 years of negotiation, India and the European Union have finalized a major free trade agreement. Described by leaders as the mother of all trade deals, this pact covers a market of roughly 2 billion people and could significantly reshape global commerce. Highlights of the deal include phased reduction or elimination of tariffs on major industrial goods, cuts from up to 110% to 10% on cars, and significant reductions on machinery, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals, mobility and movement agreements for students and workers, an estimated €500 million EU support to help India cut greenhouse gas emissions over the next 2 years. This trade pact, long in the making, will likely boost bilateral commerce, deepen technological cooperation, and signal a shift toward Asia-Europe economic integration amid growing global trade tensions. In the United States, President Donald Trump remains at the center of political debate and global headlines. Today, protests continue to mount in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as Trump campaigns in Iowa touting economic performance amid controversy over national immigration operations and public backlash against a recent deadly shooting. Simultaneously, European and Arctic leaders are pushing back diplomatically against U.S. expansionist rhetoric in the Arctic region, including around Greenland, seeking wider support to oppose any unilateral power assertion and maintain regional stability. These concurrent tensions, both domestic and international, underline how U.S. policy continues to reverberate beyond national borders and shape global diplomacy. A major and deeply concerning story today comes from Iran, where new reporting indicates a large-scale crackdowns on anti-government protest movements. Human rights organizations and independent investigations suggest that tens of thousands of Iranian security forces victims may have been systematically buried, with state efforts to conceal the scale of the violence. Protesters have been active for nearly a month, demanding political reform and economic justice. Iran's internet blackouts and mass arrests, estimated in the tens of thousands, reflect one of the most serious internal conflicts in the country's recent history. This situation continues to draw international scrutiny, triggering condemnation from human rights groups. The war in Ukraine remains one of the most consequential conflicts on the global stage. Today's reporting highlights continued Russian drone and missile strikes that have cut power in urban centers. Ukraine facing intense winter conditions described by NATO officials as among the harshest in years, with infrastructure under pressure from seasonal cold and military disruption. These dynamics maintain Europe's security tension, with NATO and allied nations adjusting defense planning in response to both humanitarian and strategic developments. In global governance today, the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres delivered remarks at the annual Holocaust Remembrance Ceremony, stressing that the lessons of history are a warning about the dangers of unchecked hatred and extremism. Meanwhile, the UN unveiled a new Multidimensional Vulnerability Index, MVI, an early warning tool to gauge developing countries' ability to withstand shocks such as climate disasters and economic downturns, underscoring how interconnected global risks are becoming. These developments show the international community continuing efforts to manage not only conflict and trade, but also long-term resilience systems worldwide. Today's biggest stories show a world in motion, a historic trade pact between two global power centers, domestic political tensions in the U.S. with international ripple effects, a serious human rights crisis in Iran drawing global attention, ongoing war pressures in Ukraine. Thank you for watching World Affairs Today. We'll continue to track these stories with factual, high-impact updates.